How many more must I die to carry out these bloody plans? We rage to end all war. No more military action. We declare dissatisfaction with those who say they'll end it when they do it more and more. We rage to end all war. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Our union makes us strong.
Stand in! Solidarity! Stand in! Solidarity! Stand in! Solidarity!
All right, IVW, get up here. We got Vince Emanuele from the Indiana chapter of IVW.
Well, compared to the rallies I've been to around the Midwest in the last couple weeks here, I figured I would share a personal story since we're in intimate company here. I'm going to talk briefly about why it is I got involved with this movement, the Iraq Veterans Against the War, and then why I continue to do this work. I was served in the Marine Corps from 2002 to 2006. I was in Iraq in 2004, 2005. I come from a union family. My father was an iron worker. My grandfathers were United Steelworkers. My father was in the Army. My grandfather served in World War II, and my brother just returned from his second deployment in Iraq. My family values unions and values the military. When I went to Iraq, we did not have a clear mission. We went there as 19, 20-year-olds, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And so once I hit the floor in Iraq, and we began patrolling and going on everyday patrols, house raids, vehicle checkpoints, I saw my brothers get killed. I saw people in the communities in Iraq getting killed. I was killing people, and my brothers and sisters were killing people. And we were wondering and asked the question, what is this for? So then I had my best friend killed in Iraq. After this happened, we returned home. And when I got home, I went to his parents' house to deliver his gear to his parents. His sea bag, his favorite knife, some of his CDs, and some of his personal belongings. And then I sat there at his parents' house with his sister and her husband and their kid and their family while I told stories and we cried and drank some Guinness because that was his favorite beer and cried some more and told some stories. And that's why I'm involved here. I'm not involved here because I read a radical book or because I took a college course and became radicalized. I'm here because I watched some of my best friends die a foot away from me. I had to take the lives of innocent people, then come home to a failing economy, a healthcare system in the VA that is totally dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And then I started to get involved with the Iraq Veterans Against the War. The latest To wrap up and to explain why I continue to do this work, last Thursday I was in Indianapolis with 30,000 fellow Hoosiers, standing up for the same rights that's trying to be taken away from you here in Wisconsin. And I gave a speech and I was nervous because this was the first time giving a speech to that number of a crowd, and it was a labor crowd, and we were in Indianapolis, and I was worried about how they were going to handle the anti-war message. After I gave my 5-minute speech, I came down off the podium, and the first individual that grabbed me has tears in his eyes. And he grabbed a hold of me and he held me as hard as I've ever been held. And he said, "Brother, my brother was killed in Iraq. I take care of his 5-year-old son every day. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing, and thank you for standing up with the Iraq veterans against the war." Now that's powerful stuff. That's not coming out here because there's a few people or it's fun to take pictures or it's fun to hold a sign. That's real. That's looking somebody in the eye and saying, "Yeah, brother, I know you lost a family member, and that's why we do this work, because it's a matter of life and death," ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for allowing us to have this event in your town. We stand in solidarity with you. Thank you very much, Wisconsin.
Thank you. My dad is a retired steam fitter, my mom was a teacher, and my grandma was a librarian in our public school system. Iraq Veterans Against the War believes that we are public employees. I was a public employee in the United States Navy from 1997 until 2003. As a nuclear machinist mate on a fast attack submarine, I deployed to the Persian Gulf and the Western Pacific in 1999 and again in 2001. Now that Scott Walker has signed his bill, which hopefully will be taken away by the courts, Wisconsin workers are calling for continued resistance with the possibility of a general strike. Scott Walker has told the citizens of Wisconsin that he is going to use the National Guard as his personal law enforcement. That's right. This is unacceptable. As veterans, we call on the National Guard to refuse any mobilization against workers. Against workers who are organizing for their union rights. When you look at the National Guard, you find firefighters, you find teachers, you find nurses, you find these very public workers who are being attacked by the governor. And now he wants them to turn their guns on their own people. This is unacceptable. This is not the first time in Wisconsin history a governor has threatened striking workers with the National Guard. In 1886, in the Bayview Massacre, 7 people were killed, including a 13-year-old child, when workers were fighting for an 8-hour workday. We must not allow this to happen again. If Governor Walker mobilizes the National Guard, we must ask them to join us. Join our side. And the same with the police officers. We've been thanking them a lot in the Capitol, and they've refused to arrest us. But they need to join us and sit down and refuse to work when they're asked to do things that are unethical. The United States has spent over $1.16 trillion to wage war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Our manufactured budget crisis in Wisconsin is a drop in the bucket to that. And Wisconsin taxpayers have spent $18.5 billion since 2001. In the same time period in Wisconsin, we've seen a weak dam collapsing and draining Lake Delton. Unions at Harley-Davidson accepting a 7-year pay raise when threatened with Harley-Davidson leaving Wisconsin.
Pay freeze.
Milwaukee has seen their transit fees increase to become the most expensive in the country. This is unacceptable, and this is an attack on workers and workers' rights. And that's one of the reasons Iraq Veterans Against the War is here, to stand in solidarity with working people. It's clear that these conditions are unacceptable, and we can no longer throw money into unjustifiable and unwinnable occupations in Iraq and Afghanistan. No longer can they tell us there's no money for our public systems when we're spending billions of dollars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Since the budget repair bill was announced on February 11th, the U.S. has spent over $10 billion to occupy Afghanistan. This is unacceptable. I'd also like to remind you about one of our fellow service members, Bradley Manning. He's been held in isolation for over 300 days, and recently it was revealed that he's been forced to strip down to his underwear for 7 hours while he tries to sleep, being awakened at least once an hour. This is unacceptable. When we join the military, we swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And now one of our own service members is having his 8th Amendment rights violated. This is unacceptable. As Jason Moon alluded to earlier, the United States Congress is proposing cutting 10,000 Veterans Assistance Supplemental Housing vouchers to help our homeless veterans get back on their feet and restore a sense of life that they may not have had for years. This is unacceptable.
Shame! 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 Shame!
At the same time, the United States Congress funds the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan with little or no debate about the billions and billions of dollars that we are spending there. This is unacceptable. As a member of Iraq Veterans Against the War, I want to thank you all for coming out here, and we stand in solidarity with you. Stand in! Stand in!
Solidarity!
Stand in!
Solidarity!
Thank you.
Thank you!
And we'd like you to enjoy this day with our very own Madison Veterans for Peace and Vietnam veteran, Mr. Will Williams.